Good morning, dear students. This is your teacher Neelam Elawat, and we'll continue our chapter, that is chapter number 5, Periodic Classification of Elements. Now, in the previous module, dear students, we have talked about the earlier attempts of classification. And today we'll be talking about the Mendeleev's classification. Okay? Now, let's first know it, the Mendeleev. The complete name of the Mendeleev is Dmitri Ivanovich Mendeleev. Dear students, his name was once asked in a 1-mark question in the board exams. So you must remember his name. That is Dmitri Ivanovich Mendeleev. Okay. And he was born in Siberia on 8 February 1834. And once he completed his early education, then he joined a university. And his education was supported by her mother. Okay, and she once wrote, she instructed with an example, corrected with love, and traveled with me to places, spending her last resources and strength. She knew that with the aid of science, without violence, with love but firmness, all the superstitions, untruth and error can be removed. So such great thoughts her mother had. And the arrangement of elements that he proposed are now known as Mendeleev's periodic table. Okay, so they are known as Mendeleev's periodic table. Now, when Mendeleev started his work, dear students, there were 63 elements known. Okay, so tell me how many elements were known when Dobiner classification was prepared? 30 elements were known. And what about the number of elements when Newland started his classification? 56 elements. Very good. So when Mendeleev started his work, there were 63 elements which were known. Okay, 63 elements were known for at that point of time. And he examined the relationship between the atomic mass and their physical and chemical properties. So his work focused on the relation between the atomic masses of elements and their physical and chemical properties. Now, among the chemical properties, he concentrated on 2 elements, that is oxygen and hydrogen. So chemical properties में भी उन्होंने 2 चीज़ों पर बहुत focus किया, एक है oxygen, दूसरा है hydrogen. And he basically concentrated what happens when an element reacts with oxygen and hydrogen. तो अगर कोई element hydrogen से react करता है तो hydride बनाता है. Okay, if an element reacts with hydrogen, hydride is formed. If an element reacts with oxygen, oxide is formed. So he basically worked out the formula of hydrides and oxides. And these 2 properties, they were considered as the basis of classification. And then he took 63 cards. Then he prepared 63 cards. And on one side of the card, suppose this is a card. So on one side he wrote the name. And on the other side, the back side, he wrote the properties. ठीक है? तो उन्होंने 63 cards बनाए. On one side he wrote the name of the element, and on the other side he wrote the properties of that particular element, and then he pinned the elements on a wall. And he observed that most of the elements got a place in the periodic table. So when he was working with the elements, he was able to adjust all the elements, and he summed up that most of the elements, they were arranged on the order of increasing atomic mass. इन्होंने भी elements को जो है increasing atomic mass के हिसाब से arrange किया, and most of the elements, they were properly placed. Secondly, he also observed what the Newland had observed, that there is a periodic repetition of properties. मेंडलेव ने भी ऑब्जर्व किया कि एलिमेंट्स की प्रॉपर्टीज़ अपने आप को रिपीट करती हैं. सो ही ऑल्सो ऑब्जर्व्ड रिपीटिशन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टीज़, एंड ही सजेस्टेड अ लॉ विच इज़ कॉल्ड एज मेंडलेव्स पीरियोडिक लॉ. Okay, he suggested a law which is referred to as Mendeleev's periodic law. Okay, what is that law? He states the properties of elements are the periodic functions of their masses. Okay, the properties of elements are the periodic functions of their masses. Means जो properties हैं elements की वो उनके mass पर depend करती हैं. Okay, एंड इन हिज पीरियड टेबल देयर वर वर्टिकल कॉलम्स. मेंडलीफ के टेबल में जो है वर्टिकल कॉलम्स थे. वर्टिकल कॉलम्स को ग्रुप कहा गया, हॉरिजॉन्टल रोज को पीरियड्स कहा गया. सो हिज टेबल हैड पीरियड, हिज टेबल हैज ग्रुप्स एज वेल एज periods. Now this was the Mendeleev's periodic table. Mendeleev का periodic table इस तरीके का था. You can see there are 7 groups. यहाँ पर 7 groups हैं, sorry 8 groups हैं. So there are 8 groups and you can see there are 7 periods. So Mendeleev के period table में 1 is missing here. It was here. So there had 8 groups and 7 periods. Now if you look at the first group, dear students, just see on the top there is a you can see formula of oxide and hydride, both is mentioned on the table. टेबल के ऊपर जो है ऑक्साइड और हाइड्राइड का फॉर्मूला मेंशन्ड है. Now how we going to study this formula? देखिए सबसे पहले सपोज करिए द ऑक्साइड का फॉर्मूला इस फर्स्ट ग्रुप में है ऑक्साइड R2O. Okay, the formula is R2O. So R could be any element of this group. Okay, R is any element of this group. Let's start with hydrogen. हमने क्या करना है, R की जगह पर हाइड्रोजन को रखना है. So we will have H2O. So देखिए वाटर का फॉर्मूला क्या होता है, exactly it is H2O. So that is oxide of hydrogen. So it is water, right? Any आप Na रख लीजिए. So that will be Na2O. Exactly. So likewise आप R की जगह पर कोई भी एलिमेंट रिप्लेस कर सकते हैं, एनी एलिमेंट ऑफ दैट ग्रुप. लाइक दिस आई हैव टेकन ऑक्साइड फॉर्मूला. चलिए हम नेक्स्ट कोई फॉर्मूला ले लेते हैं. लेट्स टेक दिस ग्रुप. यहाँ हम RH का फॉर्मूला लेते हैं, हाइड्राइड का फॉर्मूला. हाइड्राइड का फॉर्मूला है RH. ओके, इन दिस ग्रुप, इन 7th ग्रुप RH फॉर्मूला है. सो F ले लेते हैं या Cl ले लेते हैं या Br ले लेते हैं. एनी एलिमेंट वी कैन टेक. So that will be the formula of hydride will be FH, and that is exactly what is, because today we know the formula of different compounds, तो we exactly आज भी वही है. So on his table, सबसे पहले उसने अपने टेबल में ग्रुप के ऊपर ऑक्साइड और हाइड्राइड का फॉर्मूला लिख दिया एंड R can be replaced with any element. तो आप उस ग्रुप में से किसी भी पर्टिकुलर एलिमेंट को R की जगह पर रखकर उस पर्टिकुलर एलिमेंट का फॉर्मूला कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं. क्लियर एवरीवन? इज इट ओके? सो हिज टेबल वॉज वेरी वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट. ओके, हिज टेबल वॉज वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट and it was considered and it is said that if Mendeleev has not worked out with the classification, then our modern periodic table would have never been made. ऐसा माना जाता है कि अगर मेंडलीफ ने ये पीरियोडिक टेबल नहीं बनाया होता तो आज हम मॉडर्न पीरियोडिक टेबल भी नहीं बना सकते थे. नाउ कमिंग टू द अचीवमेंट्स, व्हाई डू वी कंसिडर द मेंडलीव्स पीरियोडिक टेबल वाज इम्पॉर्टेंट? क्यों मानते हैं कि मेंडलीफ का पीरियोडिक टेबल जो मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट है? सो क्या अचीवमेंट्स हैं इस टेबल की? फर्स्ट, Mendeleev had placed an element with slightly greater atomic mass before the element which is having slightly lower atomic mass. Let's see this in the table. देखिए इस टेबल को स्टडी करिए. इफ़ यू नो द बेसिस ऑफ दिस टेबल इज इंक्रीजिंग एटॉमिक मास. मेंडलीफ ने अपना पीरियोडिक टेबल जो है इट वाज बेस्ड ऑन इंक्रीजिंग एटॉमिक मास, बट एट सम प्लेसेस he has, you know, he put more emphasis on the similar chemical properties and he could readjust the elements. देखिए आप when you see the example you'll understand. Okay, you'll understand the example. Just look at this, aluminium and silicon. देखिए aluminium का atomic number है 29 and silicon has atomic number 28. अगर हम सीरीज़ को फॉलो करें तो एटॉमिक मास जो है सिलिकॉन का पहले आना चाहिए, एल्यूमिनियम शुड कम लेटर वर्ड बिकॉज उसका एटॉमिक नंबर 29 है. बट ही रिवर्स द ऑर्डर बिकॉज एल्यूमिनियम रिजेंबल्स इन प्रॉपर्टीज़ टू दिस थर्ड ग्रुप. एल्यूमिनियम की जो प्रॉपर्टीज़ हैं वो थर्ड ग्रुप से मैच करती हैं, फोर्थ से मैच नहीं करती, तो उन्होंने सिलिकॉन को फोर्थ में रखा, एल्यूमिनियम को थर्ड में रखा. लाइकवाइज आप कुछ और एग्जाम्पल्स भी ढूंढ सकते हैं यहाँ पे. सपोज यू हैव वेनेडियम एंड क्रोमियम ऑल्सो. अगेन देयर इज अ डिफरेंस 50.94 एंड 54.24. सो कुछ एलिमेंट्स जिनका एटॉमिक मास ज़्यादा था उन्हें पहले रखा गया और कुछ एलिमेंट जिनका एटॉमिक मास कम था उन्हें बाद में रखा गया. So this was first achievement of Mendeleev. Second, Mendeleev, when he made his table, he left certain gaps in the table. जब मेंडलेव अपना टेबल बना रहा था तो उसने अपने टेबल में कुछ ब्लैंक्स छोड़ दिए, कुछ गैप्स छोड़ दिए. ओके, एंड ही प्रिडिक्टेड द एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ दोज एलिमेंट्स. सो ही हैड बेसिकली क्लासिफाइड 63 एलिमेंट्स, बट एट द सेम टाइम ही प्रिडिक्टेड द एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ मोर एलिमेंट्स. राइट, उन्होंने 3 मोर एलिमेंट्स का कुछ प्लेसेस उन्होंने खाली छोड़ दी और ये सजेस्ट किया कि यहाँ पर उसकी प्रॉपर्टीज़ भी बता दी उस एलिमेंट की. that was not discovered at that point of time. Okay, and he named these elements with eka. Like 3 elements which were discovered later on was scandium, gallium and germanium. ये तीनों elements बाद में discover किए गए थे. You should look into the table. Scandium, just look at where is scandium. कहाँ पर है scandium, देखिए. Yes. So scandium and gallium and germanium, these 3 elements they were discovered later. तो इनकी जगह पर खाली blanks था और जब ये elements discover किए गए तो इनको वापस से table में place कर दिया गया. So all these 3 elements which were discovered later, they could be easily placed in the table. So can you name the 3 elements which were discovered later? Okay. So scandium, gallium and germanium, and they were named as eka boron. जो आपका scandium है उसका नाम था eka boron, eka aluminium and eka silicon. So they were named respectively. Okay everyone. So eka aluminium was later named as gallium and it had exactly the same properties which the Mendeleev has proposed. So this provided a convincing evidence. Okay, this provided a convincing evidence to the to other researchers, and they started believing this in the. They developed a faith in the Mendeleev's periodic table. Okay. Now, most important other thing is there was one more important thing. Noble gases like your helium, neon, argon. These gases they were discovered very late. Okay, they were discovered very late because they are inert gases and they are present in extremely low concentrations. ये हमारे एटमॉस्फेयर में बहुत कम क्वांटिटी में प्रेजेंट होती हैं. So when they were discovered late, they could be placed in a new group without disturbing the table. तो जब ये डिस्कवर की गई इन्हें एक सेपरेट टेबल में प्लेस कर दिया गया without disturbing the table. I hope you've understood. So because of these following points, the Mendeleev's table is regarded as the best table. Now, apart from this, Mendeleev also has some drawbacks. First of all, the electronic configuration of hydrogen, it resembles the alkali metals and as well as the halogens. जो आपका हाइड्रोजन है, हाइड्रोजन जो है एलिमेंट वो अल्कली मेटल से उसकी प्रॉपर्टी रिजेंबल करती है, दैट इज ग्रुप नंबर 1. So hydrogen resembles in properties with group number 1 as well as with group number 7. So where it should be placed? So the Mendeleev, he could not justify the position of hydrogen. Okay, he could not justify the position of hydrogen because like alkali metals, it combines with halogens, oxygen and sulfur to make the compounds. And as like halogens, the hydrogen exists as a diatomic molecule, that is it exists as a H2 molecule. So he could not justify the position of hydrogen. This was one drawback. Second is isotopes. Mendeleev did not explain the position of isotopes. Okay, we know isotopes are the elements that have similar chemical properties but different atomic masses. Isotopes वो elements होते हैं जिनका atomic mass different होता है. And since the table was based on the atomic mass, so he did not explain the position of isotopes, where the isotopes must be placed. Next is, the third problem was that the atomic mass in the periodic table did not increase in a regular manner from one element to another. जो atomic mass है elements का वो एक proper sequence में increase नहीं होता है. If you see the table, let's look at the table again so that you will understand better. देखिए हाइड्रोजन और लिथियम, हाइड्रोजन atomic mass is 1, lithium is 6, so difference is 5. Then lithium and sodium देखिए 22 and 6. So what is the difference between lithium and sodium? Yes, 14. Yes. Now lithium and beryllium को compare करिए. 9, 6 and 9, 3. Beryllium and boron 1. So there is no regular increase. यहाँ पर जो है आपका 5 से increase हो रहा है, यहाँ पर आपका 3 से increase हो रहा है, यहाँ पे 1 से increase हो रहा है. So कोई regularity नहीं है, कोई fixed number नहीं है जिससे कि आपका atomic mass increase होगा किसी particular, you can say when we move in a table. So there is no regular increase in the atomic mass of the element. So because of these three drawbacks, the Mendeleev periodic table failed, but it was the most important one. So although the Mendeleev could propose all the properties well, but he has three drawbacks. First, he could not specify the position of hydrogen. Second, he could not explain the position of isotopes. And third, the atomic mass does not increase in a regular fashion when it goes from one element to the another. So you can try these questions. I'll start with one. Use Mendeleev's periodic table to predict the formula of oxides K, C, Al and Si and Ba2. So हम इनको आप स्टडी कर सकते हैं. इनकी ऑक्साइड्स का फॉर्मूला बताना है हमने. ओके, ऑक्साइड्स का फॉर्मूला KCAl Si Ba. चलिए हम टेबल पे चलते हैं. लेट्स बैक टू द टेबल. लेट्स लुक एट दिस. सो पोटेशियम देखिए, पोटेशियम कहाँ पर है? वेयर इज द पोटेशियम? K इज हियर. So what is the formula? R2O. Formula is R2O. So keep K here. So it will be K2O. Okay. So likewise you can place it for all the other elements. आप बाकी सारे elements को भी इसी तरीके से oxides का formulation कर सकते हैं. Then गैलियम के अलावा कौन से दो elements से डिस्कवर किए थे? Yes, very good. Scandium and germanium. What was the criteria used by Mendeleev in treating periodic table? जब Mendeleev ने अपना periodic table create किया तो कौन सा criteria use किया? There were two criteria. One was increasing atomic mass and second is the similar physical and chemical properties. Then why do you think the noble gases, they were placed in separate group? Because they were discovered late. And why they were discovered late? Because they are inert gases and they are present in the atmosphere in a very small amount. Now coming to your homework for today, dear students. First of all, you will make notes of this topic and then you will read the page numbers 82 to 85. And if there is any doubt, any query you have, you will consult me on my personal number. Okay? So that's all for today. Bye everyone.